According to a report issued by the Center for Economics and Business Research, China will overtake the United States to become the world's biggest economy in 2028. Here are the possible challenges that China faces in its trajectory towards becoming a world economic superpower. If you haven't watched my previous video on the possible challenges, this is linked here. Without further ado, let's go into the possible challenges. Whilst there remains no conclusive definition of world economic superpower, an accepted definition is a country with great power and great mobility off that power. An example of a challenge China is facing is their engagement in a costly trade war with the United States of America. Additional challenges that China faces include a state-owned banking sector, governmental corruption, and a smaller military in comparison to the United States. However, this video will discuss 4 challenges faced by China, which are income and wealth inequality, an aging population, environmental changes, and cultural challenges. This video will discuss the potential causes for each challenge and the impacts that they may have on China and the possible resolutions. So what exactly constitutes as a superpower? A superpower is a country with great power and great mobility off that power. Mobility refers to the ability of the superpower to yield political and economic influence over the globe. The term superpower is a combination of 6 interlinking characteristics: political, economic, military, cultural, demographic, and resources. Furthermore, a superpower is able to leverage its large population and resources to create a strong economy. This large economy provides the foundation for the other superpower characteristics, such as military spending, foreign aid, and political influence abroad. Many current sources argue that the United States is the only current superpower. However, the growing influence of China cannot be ignored, especially once China has the world's largest economy. The first challenge that China faces is income and wealth inequality. In the year 2020, the Chinese Communist Party reported that they had eradicated extreme poverty. However, it is important to note that China has a different definition of extreme poverty as compared to the World Bank. China defines extreme poverty as living on $1.52 a day, whereas the World Bank threshold is $1.90. China has made progress in reducing inequality within the country. However, there remain high levels of income inequality that poses a threat to China's political stability and economic growth. The Gini coefficient is a statistical measuring tool that is frequently used to gauge inequality by measuring income distribution. The Gini index is measured on a scale from 0 to 1, and the closer the score is to 1, the greater the inequality. The United Nations threshold for high inequality within a society is 0.4. In 2019, China's self-reported Gini index was 0.46. However, this figure is likely to be higher due to wealthy individuals concealing their wealth for tax purposes. The income gap between rural and urban areas counts for almost half of the Chinese inequality and is among the greatest in the world. The Chinese Hukou system limits the geographical mobility of Chinese citizens by assigning households as either rural or urban. Additionally, farming households only have right-to-use land rights, and therefore are unable to sell land. If farming households decide to leave rural areas, they must forfeit their land to the local authorities. These systems make it challenging for individuals to leave rural areas to seek higher incomes. Moreover, there is an educational divide between rural and urban areas, where educational attainment is considerably lower within the rural areas. A nationwide survey of 29,000 households found that non-infectious chronic diseases were a leading cause of poverty within rural China. Non-infectious chronic diseases contribute to poverty by driving individuals out of the labor market and creating medical bills. Children have to sacrifice education to act as carers, creating a vicious poverty cycle. Such inequality will impact China's growth and stability, as inequality limits economic growth, as poorer individuals lack the resources to invest in education, which prevents them from entering higher paid roles. Industrialization has increased the demand for highly skilled workers. However, inequality limits the potential skilled workforce of China, whilst the wealth wealthy individuals are able to leverage their wealth to lobby against policies that do not serve their economic needs, such as public health and educational investments. Therefore, wealth inequality leads to political inequality. Political instability can arise as large wealth gaps are associated with social conflicts and different economic groups having fewer interactions, consequently reducing trust. This is a challenge for China on its trajectory towards becoming a world economic superpower, as reducing inequality will require significant investments in education and healthcare. Such investments could have been utilized to exert global influence through military spending or foreign aid. China has implemented policies with the objective of reducing inequality, such as raising the minimum wage and the threshold for income taxes. However, further action is necessary, and policies such as property and wealth taxes and an increase in personal income taxes are recommended to distribute wealth throughout China. The second challenge China faces is an aging population. China is aging faster than any other country in the world. Between 1950 and 1979, the Chinese population grew rapidly. In fear of the challenges of governing such a large and growing population, China introduced population control legislation, such as the one-child policy that was introduced in 1979. This policy led to a considerable drop in fertility, from 2.8 children per woman in 1979 to 1.7 in 2014. To maintain population size, the fertility rate must be 2.1 children per woman. It is predicted that the Chinese population over 60 will increase by 17.2% between 2020 and 2050, and during this time the working population will decrease by 23%. The dependency ratio correlates the number of children and elderly to the working population of a country. China's dependency ratio is expected to increase from 35% in 2010 to 69% in 2050. It is clear that China's rapid growth was fueled by China's young labor force, and in 2017 the ratio was 7 workers supporting 1 senior citizen. But in 2050 this is expected to be 1.6 workers per senior citizen. This is a clear demographic shift and is going to have economic and social consequences for China. It is clear that an aging population is likely to have negative implications on the Chinese economy due to the reduced working population, resulting in the government receiving less income taxes. Studies have suggested that elderly individuals have lower spending habits, reducing the amount of sales tax the government will receive. The issues of the aging population are further exacerbated by the hundreds of millions of aging farmers who have limited personal savings. As China ages, the proportion of the population with chronic diseases increases, and this is going to place considerable strain on the healthcare system. And unless there are further public investments into healthcare, it is predicted that China will experience a shortage of medical services for the elderly. It is predicted that public spending on education, healthcare, and pensions will increase from 10% of China's GDP in 2019 to 23% by 2050. Moreover, due to the labor force shrinking, China is expected to experience labor shortages, and this will have impacts on China's manufacturing competitiveness and public spending. Unless China is able to increase tax revenues, it will have very little to spend on priorities, such as military expansion and the One Belt, One Road initiative, potentially reducing China's global influence. China can mitigate some of the risks of an aging population. For example, labor shortages can be reduced through improved technology and automation. China's agricultural sector is inefficient compared to developed nations such as the United States. Therefore, improving technology within this sector will reduce demand for agricultural laborers, enabling them to work within other sectors of the economy. Additionally, China has introduced policies with the objective of increasing the fertility rate, such as abolishing the one-child policy and replacing it with the two-full children policy, encouraging citizens to fulfill their 2-children quota. The third challenge that China faces is environmental challenges. China's economic growth has come at the expense of the environment, and during the large part of China's economic growth, they maintained a relaxed environmental policy to ensure rapid industrialization. China is now the largest polluter in the world, and in 2016 was responsible for 29% of the total global carbon dioxide emissions. The fossil fuel carbon dioxide emissions, broken down by sector, include buildings at 6.4%, transport at 7.4%, other industrial combustion at 30.2%, non-combustion at 14%, and the power industry at 41.3%. As a consequence of the carbon dioxide emissions, many Chinese cities fail to meet international air quality standards. Health implications from this have become clear, as life expectancy north of the Huai River is 5 years lower than the south, due to the air pollution. The air pollution in China has even caused reduced solar panel efficiency, as the pollution is blocking the sunlight from reaching the solar panels. Research has found connections between manufacturing productivity and air quality, noting that degraded air quality reduces labor productivity. And furthermore, air pollution can impact productivity by causing sickness, forcing staff to miss work, and improved air quality within Chinese cities could potentially increase labor productivity by $1.77 billion. Therefore, it is vital for China to reduce pollution for the well-being and productivity of the country. China has committed to carbon neutrality by 2060 and has made efforts to reduce carbon emissions immediately. It is estimated that the transition to carbon neutrality will cost between $6.4 to $19.4 trillion worth of investment. China has implemented legislation that public businesses must disclose environmental, social, and governance performance. This transparency is an attempt to attract foreign investment and access part of the $30 trillion that has been funneled into sustainable investing. The next challenge that China faces is social and political. The coronavirus pandemic has created enormous social and political challenges for China and its relationship with the world. The mishandling of the coronavirus outbreak and potential human rights violations have resulted in many countries having unfavorable views towards China. Many countries are currently experiencing strained relationships with China. Noticeable examples are Australia, the United Kingdom, India, and the United States. The damaged relationships between these nations resulted in trade tariffs and a partial ban of certain Chinese products. Australia and the United States completely banned Chinese telecommunications firm Huawei from building their 5G infrastructure. Moreover, the United States banned all trade with specific Chinese companies. Additionally, the coronavirus pandemic has resulted in firms planning to diversify their supply chains to reduce dependency on a single nation for production. The strained relationships, trade tariffs, and plans to reduce reliance on China may result in reduced exports, which could create a critical threat for the economy of China, as exports make up 18% of China's GDP. To conclude, China has grown rapidly and is predicted to become the world's largest economy by 2028. The economic success of China has been a result of a young workforce and rapid industrialization. However, China's future growth and economic prosperity will differ from previous decades. The impacts of an aging population and inequality will reduce the working population of China, reducing the taxes that are received by the government. This reduction in tax revenue is combined with an increased demand for government spending on healthcare, education, and transitioning to a sustainable economy. Therefore, China may be unable to exert political and military influence over the globe, as these resources will be required for internal purposes. Not only does the China Communist Party have to navigate the challenges that are discussed within this video, but wider challenges exist such as the government corruption and debt. The Chinese Communist Party are actively implementing solutions to the issues discussed, such as the 2 full children policy, changes to tax legislation, and the commitment to carbon neutrality by 2060. The challenges discussed within this video will create a pivotal shift in China's economy to a sustainable future. It is vital that inequality between rural and urban areas is decreased and citizens have increased social mobility. This will enable China to avoid a labor crisis and ensure that the government can collect vital tax revenues for investments in healthcare, pensions, and a sustainable infrastructure. If you enjoyed this type of video, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out.